Jhonattan Vegas gotten his first victory in almost 7 years. Last time he won was 2017 RBC Canadian Open. What do you think, man? I've been a Vegas fan for a long time just because the nature of him being a Nike athlete. Always
Yeah,
had my eye and continued to follow him, hoping that he'd be able to get it back. Showed incredible talent coming out of UT, Venezuela originally, but has been a Texas resident pretty much since he came over. But what do you think, man?
congrats to him. You know, battling injuries, battling swing changes, the like and stuff like that. But glad he was able to bounce back and still under 40, still got some plenty of years to play now that he's got it figured back out. So hopefully he can capitalize on that and take advantage of this next year and a half or so exemption that he's going to have. So he'll be able to get into
Right.
some good events and then hopefully create some status and get into some of those elevated events through some exemptions and things like that. So looks really good on him. And
As
yeah.
we've typically done, let's take the opportunity to go through his what's in the bag and just kind of hit on his clubs. Very interesting bag. He is a club free agent, so let's do it. Had to fight with the freaking spell check. Jonathan was not jiving with the Apple spell
Oh,
check. Had to fight for them.
a constant
But
override, a constant
I
override.
know, I know. It was really trying to
My
make him
lord.
Jonathan for real. So here he is at the beginning of the week with his countryman in the pro am, another pro from Venezuela. So shout out to him again, always holding down his home country. In the bag with the Titleist TSI 3 at 9 degrees. I want to say just to clarify, and just in June he was playing the Titleist GTA 3 at 9 degrees with the A1 shear fit, but went back to the TSI 3. Thoughts on that?
Uh, from what I've heard, GT3 is, I mean, the GT set is the way to go. So, him playing the player style of that probably going to be a nice little condition for him, or a nice little
Yeah.
addition for him.
Well, it seems like it went backwards because he was playing that in June and went back to the TSI 3 for the win this week. So maybe not the best fit for
Maybe he
him.
hasn't
I
had
guess
it
we'll see as
figured out yet.
that he was rocking the Fuji Speeder, the NX70 Tourex Splex shaft. This is not one that you see very often anymore. The Speeder was a classic for Fuji for a long time. They have continued to kind of innovate it and bring it forward just because I can look at the stickering on it and it's not necessarily the old version of the Speeder, but again, something that you're not going to see very often on tour. When you were fitting, did you put people in this, or is this a shaft that you were familiar with?
It was a shaft we knew of, but definitely not a shaft that we were just out there giving out. It is definitely more of a rare shaft. I mean, because even back then, I mean, it had more notoriety, so a lot of people were trying to get their hands on it, but the price had already gone up on it. So it was something that
Mm,
we weren't really putting people in. Like we were putting people in the Diamana shafts a lot there. Trying to really think because tour design wasn't out yet, like graphic design, like Tour AD and Tour AI and
yeah.
stuff like that. Wasn't really that popular back then. More of
What
definitely more of a
was the
tour.
other one? What was Kurokage was the one that was
Yeah,
super popular back then.
yep. That was a big one that we could put people in. I mean, especially as far as like upgradable shafts that were actually like worth decent that weren't just like off the rack. But yeah,
Yeah.
speeder definitely was something like back then like Callaway really had a hold on when they had like the XR series and then past that. So yeah, it was in a few clubs but not too many.
Blast from the past here, playing the TaylorMade M6 Rocket at 14 degrees. This one was originally released. I think I mistyped that. I'm pretty sure it's 2019. So 2019, excuse me, on the M6 Rocket. The Fuji Atmos Tour Spec Black 9 Tourex Flex Shaft. But again, we've seen a couple players here in the last couple of weeks rocking the M6.
Hmm.
I never played it. I played like the M3, here and there. But M6 seems to be a popular club that people tend to hold on to, especially that 3 wood seems to be
Yeah,
the pick of choice. I think we saw Aaron Rye that was actually still rocking the M6 driver. My
yeah, the
fault.
M6
So,
driver.
yeah. What do you think about this? You seem perturbed.
Yeah, I mean, the M4 really was like the class of that line of like the M's past the M1 and the M2 and stuff. If he found something with the M6, I mean, kudos to him for real. Congrats. Because
Yeah.
I wasn't really seeing it past that. But
No, it's
to each
also
their own.
interesting. This is not the one with adjustability. This is the glued
Right.
neck. You're kind of you're getting what you get from the input there. So
Probably
you're not
the
adjusting this.
Probably like the max version or a draw bias version, something he knows he can just go out there and swing and hit hard and know what it's gonna do. Especially at 14 degrees, that's pretty strong lofted for a three wood, especially for like a pro. I mean, if you're not using like a
Yeah.
driving like one of those mini drivers that's at 13 or whatever, anyways, then yeah. But yeah, he probably just has it a little bit. I mean, a little bit on the draw bias side, and he probably just cranks it out there.
Yeah, he pulled it off the tee quite a few times this week. And this is kind of around, 2019 or where we were starting to see a few lower lofted three woods. I mean, the standard really
Hmm.
was 15 up to that point. And we started seeing manufacturers bring it down to 14, 14 and a half degrees, sometimes 13 with some adjustability. But this was kind of very early, which, give credit to TaylorMade on the wood side of things being really ahead of a lot of curves when it comes to
Yeah.
that. I mean, we've
Some
seen that with
innovators.
like you mentioned, exactly with the mini driver this year. Quite a few manufacturers have followed suit and releasing mini drivers kind of on the heels of TaylorMade doing it a couple of times throughout the
Hmm.
history of their manufacturing. In the irons, just kind of top of the bag, Titleist 2T200 in his 3 iron with the Project X 125 6.5. Every time I see Project X, and again, this kind of goes back to your fitting days, I always felt like this was a shaft that people who had crazy high swing club head speed would get fitted with this shaft. That you had to have a lot of speed to get this one to react and to flex in the way that you needed it to. Is that accurate? It just maybe that was my feeling or impression of the Project X lineup back in the day.
Yeah, more of a feel than anything. I mean, even back then, I mean, we were still X100s and stuff like that, trying to just get them in something heavier to where even if they were swinging a little bit faster, it was still heavy enough for them to control and be able to adjust to. The Project X was really more of like a kind of like the Mizunos. If you knew of it, then you kind of knew the potential and knew how good it was. Of course, the pros been playing Project X for a while. Guys like Rory and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But um, a lot of the guys we were getting fitted into definitely didn't even know what Project X was. So we weren't really offering it. It's all about feel and what feels best to you. A lot of people just didn't even, really grasp what a Project X shop was, not knowing how good it
right.
was, at the moment.
More tailored towards the pros and
Yeah,
kind of had more insight into it. All
definitely. I
right,
mean, same
so
thing with like KBS shops. A lot of people didn't really play KBSs back
right.
then, and like, people that were in the know of golf definitely did, but not like the average day amateur and pretty much like an upgraded shaft charge and stuff like that. They weren't really like going for that.
And then the 4-3 pitch and wedge Mizuno MP4. This was originally released back in 2013. He's
Yeah.
been playing them. His last win, he was still playing this same iron. Held on, people who love Mizuno, looking at you, man. Just love Mizuno. Would you? The question I was going to ask you is: do you play the pitching wedge in the set, or do you have a separate pitching wedge?
Now I play the pitch and wedge. It's good. I like
Okay,
it. Mine is
you
46 degree. Yeah, I definitely
yeah,
love the Mizuno and I love the way it looks. MP4 is definitely like that classic blade style look. It's everything you would want in a blade. And the feel, it's still just so buttery even back then. And the
yeah,
the hidden area on it is teeny tiny, but when you're a pro and you're not missing anyways, it's perfect.
yeah, yeah. He's a pretty solid ball striker. Always has been. One of those guys where you're probably on the range and it sounds
It
just
just
slightly
sounds different.
different.
Hmm.
Barrel chested. Jhonattan Vegas. He's always been kind of a bigger guy. He lumbers around the course, has a lot of just built-in power. So I'm sure he's not struggling to find the sweet spot on these bad boys. And again, that Project X 130 7.0. In the wedges, Titleist Vogue, no really surprises here. Kind of mixes in some Titleist clubs clearly. Titleist
Hmm.
Vogue design SM10s in the 50 degree and the 54 bent to 55. Again, playing that same Project X shaft. Nothing, other than him playing the SM10s, which, again, given kind of the older clubs that he has in the bag, somewhat surprising that he's gone with the newest wedges, but maybe he's like, that's where the money's made for me, and wants the latest and greatest, or the spin profile fits him versus the SM8s or nines. Interesting choice there. And then outside of the box, TaylorMade MG high toes at 60 degrees. They didn't have his actual one, so I just went with some stock stuff just so you can kind of see how that lineup with that club looks. So that's the high toe wedge from TaylorMade. So interesting, very very interesting bag in terms of clubs, and then we'll get into the ball and putter here. Lab, man, lab putters seem to be kind of taking over. We have talked
Crazy.
heavily about, the fact that people are going to more help in their putters, but he's still going with a bladed style putter. But I'm sure with all the different weighting options and customization that Lab can do for players, I don't think I've ever seen the same Lab putter more than once. I mean, maybe that Adam Scott version of that Lab, I've seen that maybe duplicated once or twice, but every time I see one, it looks very custom to the player. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, because essentially a center shafted blade. First of all, that's just wild to me. But yeah, I mean,
Right, right.
it's kind of like when Unc had the Adele putter, just super personalized, everything you could want in a fitting, and everything you could possibly want, and how you would want it to look in your eye. They're able to create that and recreate that. So I think Lab Golf is doing it right. And when you're playing at this level and you're playing for this dollar amount, you spending $600, $700 for a completely personalized putter, it's nothing to you in the grand scheme of things if you're winning. So
Well, hell, the shaft itself, I see the LA golf shaft in there. So
yeah,
that shaft alone is stupid money.
right. The stability shaft and stuff that these guys sometimes use, $300 just for that alone. I mean, it has the tech in it though. It's worth it. I mean, if anything, if you're gonna spend money on anything, you're gonna spend money on something you're gonna have for years upon years. You're gonna have something that you want to look down on and trust yourself with. So I think it's worth the bread every time. For wedges and for
Yeah.
putters, it's worth the money every time. You can get skirt by on
Yeah.
some other stuff and miss a few models,
Well,
but
Well, when it's your living, I don't think you really worry about the cost, right? I mean,
exactly.
I'm sure he made about 1 point something million today for the win, so I think
Hmm.
he's good for it. And he seems to have done very well with his money over the years, just taking care of himself, and has stayed active even despite not playing as much as we had seen him play early on in his career. The only thing that's messing with me from an OCD standpoint is that the center of the shaft is not going directly down the center, but just
Yeah,
slightly left of center off the line. I don't know. That would, again, OCD on my behalf, but whatever works for that man.
yeah.
On the ball, just a zoomed in shot. It's the Pro V1X standard stock stuff. We know the red number. That's the differentiator between that and the Pro V1. No surprise there is a long ball hitter that he's a little more swing speed playing the Pro
Hmm.
V1X. So pretty straightforward there. And shoe wear, the FootJoy Hyperflex Carbon. I know you're not a fan, and I said I was going to review the shoe, and I thought they were going to discontinue it. I thought it was going to be dropping on sale, and I saw some sales earlier in the year, but then it's kind of popped back up. What was your experience with this shoe? I know you have this one, right? But don't love it.
Well, I had a version of the Hyperflex.
You didn't have the Carbon, right? You just had the Hyperflex.
I don't think I had the carbon. No. I don't. It just the way it grasped my ankle and like my Achilles and stuff like that, like my back heel. It didn't feel right at all. Like putting it on, walking with it, any of it. It just did not fit my foot at all. Maybe it was a sizing
Hmm.
thing, but FootJoy, I mean, every other shoe is the same size and it never misses. I'm a 12 when it comes to FootJoy, and it's lovely. We have a great pairing. I love FootJoy
Yeah.
shoes. I mean, I got two pairs of the Pro SL. I definitely still have a pair of the old Pro SLs. So FootJoy is not the problem. I just think it was me and Hyperflex, and
Just this model didn't fit. Did it
yeah,
run big or run tight?
tight, tight.
Hmm.
Uh,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No clue what it
Well,
was, but no hard feelings with FootJoy because I still love them. He might
no,
have a weird
no.
foot.
I think he does kind of. He is pigeon toed, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Another notable player, Bryson DeChambeau, also wears the Hyperflex carbon
Mm,
as well. So who
yep.
knows?
Certified
Like you
weirdo.
said,
So yeah,
different.
Lonzo.
You got to figure out what works best for you and personalize your shoes. But that's winner of the 3M Open, Johnny Vegas's What's in the Bag. You get a lot of stuff out of this channel, y'all. A little business knowledge, a little technical golf knowledge, a little BS in here and there. You're in a well-rounded environment. So uh,
Absolutely.
hit that subscribe button, hit that membership button. We got you covered on all things golf.